now 6 o'clock by my watch, and Michelle is here, so I will call this meeting to order. And the first item, as always, is additions to and deletions from the posted agenda. We do have two additions that I'm aware of, which is a tax sale and discussing the local 20% match.
That is on the Mount Tom Park
Okay.
Trails project.
Okay?
And I'd like to add one more item, which
Yeah.
would be our paramedic
Okay?
vacancy that, talk about that.
Okay. Paramedic vacancy. Very good. And unless we choose to reorder the agenda, those will come up towards the end.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Next item is citizens' comments.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah?
John and I were out today, and I'd like to talk about Pomfret Road and Cox District Road for 5 lines and center line painting.
Okay. Okay. So Pomfret Road and Cox District Road are also added to the agenda.
Line painting.
Line painting, yes. Okay. Any citizens' comments other than what people are on the agenda already? Yes, sir, Chris.
I wasn't going to, but seeing as I'm here, I can't resist. I'm still interested in pursuing merging the town and the village. And since the last time I was here, nobody has done anything as far as I know. Is there any interest in forming some kind of an official committee to, I know Butch has expressed interest in you guys appointing something like an official committee to make this move forward or not?
I thought you were going to.
I'll
form a
do,
committee and
I can. If you guys want to make it official, I just was wondering.
That was kind of the way I thought we left it, was that you were gonna come up with a committee and
Okay.
go for it.
Fine.
I don't know what anybody else thought.
My thought on it was that on town meeting day, rather than have it as a ballot, as a voice vote election, you're really not allowed to have a ballot vote, but you could have an opinion poll
That's what we talked about. Yeah.
at the people who come in the building to vote in person could do an opinion poll. It might even be more than one question.
Right.
Why would it not be a ballot vote?
Well, it's very complicated in the law, and I'd be happy to explain it to you sometime. But all public questions in Woodstock have to be voted by voice vote,
Okay.
unless you get permission ahead of time to do it by Australian ballot.
Right.
So
You prefer it not to be a voice vote?
I think you know how voice vote is. You got 100 people there. If you really want to know how 700 people feel, get an opinion survey. It's non-binding anyway because there's nothing being proposed other than a future vote.
Right. Okay, thanks.
I think that maybe the simple answer is you know we're very open to pursuing merger, and if you bring something to us, we will absolutely be happy to entertain it. I agree it was left somewhat vague, but I think we
Just type it.
had the impression you were going to be doing
I
something.
haven't, so I was
So,
just asking. All right.
nor are you obligated to, but if you are offering, we are very willing to let you come back before us with that.
Okay.
Okay. Following the agenda, we move next to old business, and we have an item, review bids for firefighter
Yes,
portable
that's
radios.
3 times blue.
So you'll see in your packet, there's a spreadsheet from 3 bidders
Yep.
and the recommendation to go with Motorola for $56 over the Kenwood. We have Motorola, and this will be uniform within the service.
You think I really need them, Butch?
Oh, yeah. I bought the last radio 25 years ago. Oh, yeah.
So these are portable radios that would sit in the engines, and firefighters would carry them into the building with them, or out in the fields for communications. And the ones we have are probably 20 years old, and more than half of them are out of service.
So I would make the motion that we go ahead with the recommendation of our fire chief and approve the expenditure for 20 Motorola radios from CBC Paging.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sounds like it's unanimous. Thank you. That was the only item of old business. Now new business. The first item is Pentangle Arts and the discussion of renovations. So,
I'm just going to do a brief overview. I'm not going to, you have the materials in the packet, so you can go through those. I'm not going to walk you through it. I'm here with our architect, Dave Siegel, and our engineer, John Penny. They will go into a little more detail on the renovation itself. I would just like to say, since I've not had the opportunity, just to remind you all that Pentangle, we are tenants here. We do pay rent and we pay for our utilities. We're very happy to be in the town hall. We have a great working relationship, and I think it's a win-win for the town. People come in and ask us questions about the town, we can answer them, and we have the largest public venue in the village. This October, I start my third year here, and I think within the first show we did, I realized how inaccessible our theater is. And it's not just people in wheelchairs. It could be someone with a broken leg. It could be someone who's on a walker that can't handle the ramp, or the fact that the door is so heavy. And then going into the theater, there are not many options. It is, by law, it's up to code because we haven't made any changes since 1987. And I really feel that in the interest of accessibility and in just having a theater that's attractive to people both here and people coming into the village, it's time for a change. I had the, I guess, good luck or bad luck to have to work the concession stand a few times. It's pretty gnarly. There's no industrial sink. It's very narrow. You're dealing with hot popcorn. You're dealing with grease and butter. So part of this renovation is to make that a more sanitary, a more pleasant working environment for our young people that work every weekend. And I guess I would just say that we have been working hard as an organization since I started to really open the doors to the village. To whether it's nonprofits, whether it's Zach's Place, that it's not just Pentangle for people 50 and over that can afford an expensive ticket. So we feel that this renovation is not just about making a destination theater for tourists. It's really about making a place for our community to feel proud to come to. I think I was a little misquoted in the paper. Our intent is to raise the money privately. We don't intend to go to the voters. We realize that we all pay enough to make this town go, so this will be a capital campaign. We will go to whomever, the deep pockets we can find in the Upper Valley. So having said that, I think I'll turn it over to Dave and to John for more details.
Thank you.
Would you like an easel? Or just-
I could probably, it's up to you. I could go like so, if that's good for the board. You want an easel?
No, that's
Okay.
unusual.
All right. So Alita did a great job in segueing into what we're trying to do to the facility. Right here is the existing conditions as it currently is with the concession stand and the seating, and showing no addition, just completely as it exists today. What we're proposing on doing is a two-part, a renovation and an addition to the back. In doing so, what we're doing is you come in from here, and we're proposing taking the concession stand out of where it currently is and moving that out to this office space when you first come in that is underutilized, and creating a small counter that kind of L's the corner to the current door that goes into their offices. They would also renovate the office space to make it a little more efficient than just desks thrown in there and file cabinets, kind of do built-ins all the way around to make workstations where they can be a little easier for them to work. The janitor's closet would remain, and then I don't know if any of you are aware, in the back of the existing concession stand there's an old ticket booth that's mounted on the wall. We're going to reclaim that and put it on a mobile cart, and that'll be stored inside the auditorium space. And that cart will be pulled out and tickets will be sold from that. So What it allows is people to come in, and that will be located in this corner, again, completely movable. People can queue up in this area and not be right at the entry and going out the door. At that point, you can then immediately go back into the, for a movie or a play, or you can come over here and queue up into this area, which will take everybody out of that congested area and kind of queue people up where they should be queued. When you come through the doors, now that the concession stand isn't what the first thing you see, we're trying to create, as Alita said, a more accessible space, but also a space that people want to come to perform and to see a performance. When you open these doors, you're going to have a straight shot looking right down to the stage. You're not going to feel that you go in and have to tunnel around to go into an auditorium. That'll be a level flat area that can be utilized for handicap seating as well as intermission areas where there's a level space and you're not congested in the tunnel effect to come out to a common staircase. We do have a rendering that I'd like to show you of that space looking. So basically you would come in and you basically just see the whole auditorium. And looking back, so this is where concession is. So now it's all wide open. And there'd be drapes and new beams in the ceiling and lighting, new seating. So again, it gives you the wow factor when you come right through those doors instead of feeling like, where am I going? And everyone has a tendency to go left and come through, and very congested, not a smooth and friendly, usable space. So the seating would then, we're limited in seating. We want to stay under 300. Okay, it's currently 362, 50, okay, 56. And we want to be under 300, which will allow us to widen the seats, the spaces between the seats, and the width of the seats. There'll be random seats. I'm sure you've seen the sample seat that's downstairs in the lobby. That is, I believe, the smallest width seat that will be going in. So, and also angling the side seats and limiting the seats doesn't feel that you're into a corner perpendicular to the stage. You're kind of skewed slightly, so the person sitting in these corners has a nice shot of the stage. So all of that being said, it creates a better space to maneuver, a better improved space down in this corner where there's currently stairs going up to the stage. We're going to propose taking those steps out and putting a lift in. So if anyone is a performer and needs to get up to stage level, there'll be an accessible lift that'll take them up there. And we'll add a stair just outboard of that to gain access to the stage. So performers could come down from the stairs, and if they needed to, they could come up here, perform, and come all the way down and have, be part of the audience as well. So that's kind of the renovation stages of it. The addition out back is a rather small addition. It's 17 feet by 41 feet. It goes about to the distance of the existing HVAC system that's out there. What it's going to do is provide a better staircase than a spiral stair going down. Performers in a spiral stair, I'm sure, don't really appreciate that much. Nice stair, but not functional. In addition, we're going to put an elevator. That elevator will do the purpose of bringing in stage props, fully accessible space in the back now. It will also allow for you can drive all the way around back with a lower entrance. So you can park at the lower level, come up to an accessible entry, go up about a 2/3 flight, and you're at the dressing room level. Renovate that dressing room area, have a handicap bathroom, accessible bathroom in it. So there's 3 dressing rooms and the 2 bathrooms plus an ADA compliant bathroom down there. So we're fully compliant. The renovations would take that mechanical system out of the visual eyes of everyone that stares at the building now from over the river, and we would put it up into the attic space. There'd be a sloped roof on the back of the building, and I can show you elevations in one moment. But this whole area, which I can let John discuss, but that's the mechanical space for the backstage and the dressing room. The elevations. So here's the entire west elevation. The addition is this small addition in the back, 2-story element, where there'll be side entry, which is at the dressing room floor level. So one can go down that slope, the drive that goes down, stop, drop off somebody, and they're right in the dressing room. Continue down below and gain access either to the building, park, do whatever they need to do. And then the upper floor is backstage. So right now, currently, when performers perform in the backstage area, they either get trapped on one side or the other. If they're on that one side of the far side of the stage and they need to go down to change, they either have to run really quickly across, wait till a set break comes in. We've created this space to circulate around back and also have an elevator for props to come up, a place for a break, a place for cast to stand and wait until they come out to perform, and then go down a much easier stair. The materials will all match the building that's here. There'll be brick materials. The coin work would match the front, a little smaller scale because it's a little bit too big for the size of the addition. The architectural details will be pulled off the existing building and brought into the trim around the windows. There'll be a large window in the back here that faces across the river. Again, this detail is picked up from the larger details that are all over the half-round windows here.
Can I just
Yeah.
add? When Dave refers to performers, we're not just talking about when we do our big shows. We're talking about whether it's the 6th grade play or show your stuff. That spiral staircase is a hazard, and you don't need to be physically challenged. It's just incredibly steep. Little kids have to go up and down with costume. The back part of the stage, we really love the schools to be able to come over and do stuff. There is no storage. So this is really trying to make this a more multi-use facility, and for the community and for us to be able to do the live shows that raise kind of the economic and cultural value of town. And I think if any of you were part of or attended any of our shows or were in town when Cats was going on, or Rocky Horror, or Fiddler on the Roof, we brought in business to the bars, the restaurant, the inn, and we feel that is our commitment here, is to give back in multiple ways. And we really can't do it with our limited infrastructure that we have right now.
Right. All these improvements will help in many ways. Let's see.
Do you want to go into the HVAC?
Yeah, we're going to go into the HVAC. I just wanted to point out one more thing. One of the other details that would actually be picked up is currently there are 3 beams that go across, and there's a sprinkler system that just was installed straight across all the windows. The proposal is to reroute those and to chase them into a coffered beam ceiling effect. So some of the beaming that will happen in the ceiling will actually house the sprinkler system. Just a total rerouting, so we can actually put darkening blinds on the windows and drapes to complement that, and a new drape on the front. Now I'll turn it over to John, and he can talk about mechanical. Here, I'll switch with you.
Okay, I don't have any boards to show you.
Want the plan?
My name is John Penny. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I'm out of Chester, Vermont, and I'm very active in the theater. My wife and I are volunteers at Weston, so we're very tuned into the whole theater atmosphere. I was tasked with looking at the mechanical systems and giving some evaluation of what could be reused or what we would need to do for new. As I got into the mechanical systems, I found that they are really beyond their useful life. There's an old air handler that I think is still used that distributes air underneath the auditorium and serves the auditorium. There's no cooling in that unit. It's just outside air and heating. There was a cooling coil in there at one time. No, it looks like it was never hooked up. But the equipment is extremely old. I don't know that it could be rebuilt. It's something that probably has to be replaced. And obviously, if you're going to put in the effort to this kind of a renovation, you really should be upgrading the equipment. The air handler out back is really just a rooftop heating and cooling unit that's sitting on a pad. It's ducted into the back of the building. They usually have a useful life of around 20 years. I think that one's pushed past 20 years by a little bit. And just being out in the elements, it shortens the life of the equipment. It's also in the location where this addition would affect that piece of equipment anyways, and what would be the effort would be to move that up into the new addition, get it out of the backyard, clean it up, make it more interior, have louvers on the back addition, things of that nature, and have it inside. Similar with the one that's in the auditorium, we may have to deal with, and I found this out this evening, because it's in the floodplain, some of that equipment is going to have to come up out of the floodplain. The air handler that's in there is sitting right down on the floor. I guess it has to come up about 5 feet or so, and there seems to be enough room in that space to raise stuff up. We'll have to work that out to see if the best thing is to go back into that room with a new air handler. It looks like it might be difficult to find equipment that might be able to make it through the door, but something could probably be accommodated. The boilers down there, they serve the entire building, so I guess that's a shared thing. 2 of the boilers are extremely old. They're probably at the end of their useful life. I don't know what you've been dealing with for repairs on the boiler, but I would imagine in recent years, you've probably been putting more, not a lot, really?
And new burners and new fireboxes inside the,
So you rebuilt the boilers that are down there? Oh, so even though they look pretty shabby from outside,
they're functional.
Yeah.
But as you say, they're old as well, so I'm sure that if you want to provide some new boilers, I don't think the select board would turn you down.
Well, I think if you were to do this kind of a renovation, that certainly would be, at the forefront of our minds. I mean, to leave the old boilers in that place when money is going into such a nice renovation of the theater, that's something to consider. They probably could still be used. I see some of the circulator pumps down there have been replaced. There's a couple of old ones there.
So you're proposing move a new boiler room?
Not necessarily, but I think if it's required to get it out of the floodplain, at least raise them up. So you'd probably put in a floor in that mechanical room and raise them up in the same space, because the chimney's accessible, and that's probably the one you would still use. So that's the way I would.
Why would it be required to get it out of the floodplain?
Well, I just found out this evening from a letter, and maybe you should address that a little bit.
The state responded back to Michael Brands about some concerns when you are doing renovation work, and I can, if you would like to see it. I don't
Yeah,
have a copy.
there's a notation there, one of the bullet points about
Bullet point right here.
mechanical, electrical
When you-
systems need to be, or addressed as being moved out of the floodplain. So that was one of the things that I just made note of this evening.
Correct.
It looks like it can be accommodated in that space though, which I think is, you just have to build a new floor up a little higher, maybe even up where the door enters now. Maybe you could still use below as storage, but.
Because I have been trained in these things, it is a standard National Flood Insurance Program requirement that all heating and utilities be elevated above base flood elevation when you do a renovation. So, and that's so that, assuming that the federal mapping is correct, when you have floods, they won't get damaged and have to be replaced.
Correct, and a LOMA could be filed.
Well, I wondered that, whether, I said assuming the maps are correct, if you have reason to think the maps aren't correct, we could file a LOMA and then have all this go away.
Yeah, that's one approach.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it would make insurance.
The elevation is 692 and the dressing room floor is 694,
Yeah.
roughly.
Yeah.
You're
So,
proposing an entrance at 688?
correct, which we approached to the state, which is allowable to gain access to a building within the floodplain. Our addition is completely flood compliant. We have, the whole addition is 100% flood code compliant. So we are allowed to access the building from the floodplain. It's the existing part of the building. And when you trigger the amount of, when you exceed a dollar value, then compliance comes in. Anything that's not code compliant needs to be compliant. And the only triggering issue is the boiler room, which is a shared boiler room. In the addition, we have our mechanicals that will heat and air everything that is being added on to the building. rest of it is just a matter of, do we file a LOMA, and which is a legitimate argument, I'm sure, or do we just elevate the boilers? And like John stated, they are definitely they've been rebuilt, as Phil states, but there are some Band-Aids down there that that we've looked at, and it's a matter of time. And I don't know how efficient they are. I don't know. There's a lot of things. There's also an old coal bin that is somewhere over there that needs to be explored. It should have been filled in the late 80s when they put the additions on. My understanding is the buried oil tanks are up to date. But if you're going to renovate these things, we would, we're working for Pentangle, so we would, there are other alternatives to a more efficient system that can go in there. So.
I would just say, and it's certainly not the forefront of our thing, because this is sort of where the town and a nonprofit intersect, but I know there was an energy audit on the building done at some point, and if we were together to be able to make this building, seal it up and make it energy efficient, I think that in the long term is good for the town, it's good for the taxpayers, and I'm sure in this economic climate, people may not have the appetite for it. For us, our goal is to make really the theater to be more, accessible. But I think if like back in '87 when the town and Pentangle came together, if we could do it together and make the necessary improvements, it would be great. I don't think it's if we only do phase one in the theater, it's within our confined space, we don't have the intersection with the town, that's fine too, but I think it's worthy of a discussion.
Well, it's certainly worthy of a discussion. We ought to know all the facts. How much we'll want to spend is a whole other story.
Right, I agree.
And I did remember that we didn't buy a lot of additional things for those boilers under the advice that they had some life left in them. So we'll just.
They're cleaned every year. They're cleaned out between the cast iron sections. They should have quite a bit of life left in them.
Yeah. Okay. And again, I don't want to get into technical speak, but I mean, we could do both a LOMA and elevate. I mean, I think sometimes doing the LOMA just gets you out of the state commenting on everything you do, and it gets you out of the thing about higher insurance. That's all.
I think that's probably about all I have
Yeah.
from a mechanical
Any
perspective.
questions?
so.
Or?
Well, I was going to say, I know. I'm just going to say, if you're talking about fundraising yourself, then there's not too much for us to say. However, yeah, Chris, go ahead.
I would like to advocate for the town
Yeah.
spending some money
Yeah.
on improving the energy efficiency of this building.
Yeah.
We did have the energy audit in 2011, shortly before Irene. After Irene, it all went away because we didn't want to think about that, for good reason. Enough time has passed that we should rethink this, I believe. It doesn't make sense to me to have Pentangle buy a new not mechanical plant necessarily, but an air system or whatever they need to buy that has to be sized for a leaky building. I think it is incumbent on the town to do what it can to save energy both for Pentangle and for the town budget to improve the energy efficiency of this building. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to be cheap, but if you take the long view, it's going to pay for itself. We could spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on this building just in stuff that you'd never notice, plugging up all the holes, improving the insulation. The fly in the theater is, you can almost see the sky through that thing. I mean, it's really amazing how much this building leaks. And we budget $50,000 a year for utilities for this building. We could substantially reduce that, our yearly budget for oil, if we spent some money now to improve the energy efficiency.
Are there grants available to the town for energy efficiency on this building?
Not many that I know of. Efficiency Vermont has some, but they're quite small. John may know more about that than I do.
Yeah, I'm working with Efficiency Vermont right now on a new program that they've got out. It's called a deep retrofit program. And this building might possibly qualify in the sense that in order to get the benefits of their program, you have to have a 50% improvement in your energy use. But when you have a very leaky old building that uses a lot of energy, when you address the envelope, it usually works in your favor pretty quickly. So if you've got a good energy audit from recent years, it's worth taking a second look at that and see how that may come into play. And it's easy enough to call someone from Efficiency Vermont. There might be somebody that's right in the Woodstock area. I've worked with Gary Swindler with the Inn over here. He'd be happy to speak with you about the programs that they have.
The two, in my perspective, the two main items on the list from the energy audit. Well, the one that I think we did already, which is to preheat the oil. I don't know if we also did the bypassing the offline boilers. There was an issue of the maybe you know more about this than I do. I think I'm understanding this correctly. That both boilers, are there 2 or 3 boilers down there?
3 boilers.
Those 3.
And the water's running through all 3 of them when only one of them was firing, or something like that. Maybe I get this wrong.
No,
Anyway.
No, you're absolutely correct. The way it's set up is just a primary system. So if only one boiler is running, you're running water through all 3 of them. So it's not as efficient. Today, we would build it as a primary-secondary system where an individual boiler is all that serves the system.
So some motorized valves would solve that. But the other big issue is really the insulation and the air sealing. And you go up in the attic and there's that much fiberglass. We could do a lot more for plugging leaks, for improving the doors, the windows in the theater. Potentially could get some better storms. More insulation in the attic, shutting off the top of the stair. All these things will really help to reduce our energy costs.
Is the roof on the stage insulated, or is it supposed to let the snow melt off?
It's not insulated, Butch.
Huh?
It's not insulated.
So it's not insulated because it has to melt the snow off? It's not structurally designed to carry the snow load?
And that would have to be investigated.
It was built in the late 1920s.
Yeah.
So it's designed to melt.
Could be.
And
Could
if
be.
you
A lot of
insulate-
old buildings are like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you insulate, you gotta beef up your structure.
We don't know that, but it's possible.
Well,
I mean, you'd want to evaluate it.
pretty much the norm around.
Well, I think you're talking about the Opera House, which is the very top,
Yes.
which, yeah, you can see outside pretty easily.
And I just think maybe politically that it would be a good time to do this. When they're raising a bunch of money, if the town could step up and put a little or a lot, depending on how much the appetite of the voters is, into improving the building at the same time, I think that might be easier to swallow.
So would you all look at the stage roof, if it's capable of being insulated and handling a snow load for our climb?
Sure.
Thank you.
We can get the structural engineer.
Any sense, Chrissy, that this, I guess the energy audit is just 4 years old. Is it needing updating, or you think that's current?
Yeah, 5, almost 6 years old now
Right.
at this point.
Well, you're right, 5, sorry.
I mean, they did have tabulations, as they typically do, of how much each measure would cost and how much it would save. All those numbers probably change because oil prices go up and down. Right now, they're low, so
Yeah.
those numbers don't look as good. But 2 years ago, they were much higher, so that changes. But the basic, the physical aspects of it, I think, are pretty much the same.
Yeah, I think we should look at it. I'm not sure what to say at this moment. So, Alita, you're at the point of just letting us know and getting a sense of whether we're saying go forward, hold off, or something else.
Right, and I
Yeah.
think it's, as I said, there's, go forward in your own space. We
Yeah.
feel good about that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, and Phil, maybe is there a permit, if we were to go raise the money, what stage are we at for voting by the select board and by the trustees? I know we passed one hurdle with a village design review. So I would ask you sort of, this is informational, but I think there is a point where you have to say, yeah, please go raise that money and make it happen.
Yeah, if you own the building, you have your zoning permits, your architect's gonna get you your construction general permit, whatever else state permits you need, labor and industry permits, and you would go ahead and start raising money, and you would have explained your project to the select board, and this would be the point when you ask the select board that if you raise the money, that you would have the permission to go ahead and build it.
I mean, there's a sense in which our approvals are when we apply for the permits, because we're the town's the owner, in a way,
Yes, well.
kind of. Maybe you're not agreeing with that, but anyway.
No, no, I
But you
don't
are,
disagree.
you
We
are the
own the
owners.
building,
So
there's
I
no
think it
question
has
about
to
it.
be.
I'm just saying, at some point, when you apply for permits, the town has to sign
We
on to
s-
those
we s-
permits and say, yes, we're applying for this.
That's right, I think we signed as
Yeah.
co-owner or co-applicant.
Right.
We did for the flood, yeah.
Co-applicant,
Yeah. So at least at that point, we have to be
yes. But
on
you're,
board.
When do you plan to start your fundraising?
Well, we're going to discuss that next week. It was sort of based on the feedback tonight and, you know, whether we do phase 1 and 2, whether we deal with the HVAC. And I guess it would be great within the next month or two to sort of know what the select board feels about dealing with some of these energy efficiency things. We could proceed fundraising and having basically a parallel system for heating and cooling, which it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Or the other option is we just stick with dealing with the theater and not dealing with the rear part. But for me, running the organization, it's certainly a better thing to bundle it together and to really do it right once and really go out and get the money. We have so many limitations with accessibility and storage and the lack of being able to wash dishes and stuff like that, that I feel it would be really like putting one hand behind our back, raising money, saying, yeah, we're going to do this, but we still don't have a utility sinks.
the ask of the town to deal with the boiler room down below and all of the air handling units and all of the hot air that's pushed to all the far corners of the stage and the dressing rooms, that's a tremendous sum of money. And a lot of it goes up to the stage, and a lot of it goes up to the dressing room. There's not a lot of room in there. I mean, when this building gets cold, I have to crawl around in those cobwebs and dust and find the little switches to
Well, I think
get
that
heat into the dressing room. So it's not just, the town's being asked for a lot of money there. And I think we should be given some idea what that might be.
right. So as I understand it, with the addition, if we can't do the addition without losing the chiller, Pentangle takes on that HVAC, we continue with the boilers. So am I correct on that?
Well,
You
you would want to improve all of those areas, so you would have new zoning and stuff like that would be down there. And the tendency right now would be to use the boiler system and have a hydronic system down there.
So there's no real way to do the rear addition without impacting the town's compliance.
Well, no, you were right before. You could do an independent system, you may be gas fired, but I don't know if it's in the best interest to have more a gas tank outside now to serve a separate thing. So that's all on the table. I mean, we certainly would want to discuss that.
The air conditioning system that's out back is all for the stage.
Yep.
The air handling unit that's all back there is all for the stage and the theater.
We don't have any air coming
You
into
do,
the
that
theater.
giant.
It's a little
machine.
weird. The only
You
cooling you
bring a
can
lot
have
of
comes
air
through
into
the
the building
stage.
for circulation. That big tall box.
The chiller.
No, the chiller is just that tiny,
Well, you don't really, I don't want to make it too confusing. There's no chiller. It's a rooftop air handler which has DX cooling. Okay, so it's a packaged unit. Chiller is kind of a different piece of equipment.
Are you
But that's
talking what we're proposing or what the status quo is?
what you have right now?
Oh, thank you.
Okay? This is the unit that's out back. It's just a rooftop air handling unit with cooling and heating and ventilation. Goes right into the back of the building. That's the only cooling that's there. The cooling migrates out into the auditorium. the air handler that serves the auditorium does not have any cooling associated with it.
Never did, there wasn't enough money for that.
Hmm.
I don't see how we can be intelligent without knowing what, we don't even know what we're spending.
We don't even know what they're
We gotta
asking.
know how much money we're talking for the town share. Before we can,
Well, we're in the planning processes here, and I would understand as my scope, and I should let David speak, but, you know, we would put together budget numbers with a proposed system breaking out what would be, you know, in effect, part of the town's influence, I'll say, on the building versus what would just be Pentangle. So I would expect you to get a full presentation on that part.
Which we would have to pay for. Unless we could come to some agreement to do that jointly.
They are tenants in the space, so, you know, the issue here comes into play, substantial improvement. These are the numbers that we're talking about, and that's where full compliance comes in, so.
Full compliance with what?
Flood,
Flood compliance, is that what you said?
yeah.
I thought it was
Full flood compliance for a code, okay? So there are issues, like I said, the back addition is a fully flood compliant construction. It conforms to all building code. The number threshold of the 50%, which again, the main hiccup is the boiler's elevation that they are currently at. And there are some ways to go around it, like we spoke earlier about the Loma, and that elevation could change. Regardless, like John said, there's going to be a point, and I think Chris commented from the energy audit that and Alita's comments about working together. I don't see this as an issue that Pentangle has to pay for everything in order to get construction going on a building that they lease that you own. So in working together, we have all of these other avenues that we can look at. And yes, there would be things that we would address. Certainly would want to look at that roof. But to Alita's point, you're going to hire, they're going to pay for everything to improve this building when it's the rest of the building is inefficient as well from the energy audit. So I think everyone needs to work together and come up with a resolution. Absolutely.
Well, and I think as a select board, you could decide that, okay, if the level of compliance by doing the rear addition, we get that municipal private intersection, nonprofit, you could say, you know what, we're not prepared to deal with that. And then, for me in a fundraising thing, I would say, okay, the town is not prepared to deal with that. That's fine. I understand that. Then I would just lock that off in terms of what we're going to go raise money for. And so I guess that's sort of the conversation you'll need to have if that is something that's not even on the table, because we certainly don't want to raise money for something and then say, guess what, it's going to raise the compliance and the town really doesn't want to deal with this, which, I get, but I think that's part of the purpose of this meeting is to sort of lay out what the options are, and if there are options that make sense in the long term that you all think are feasible, great. If not, that's fine too. It's just we will need the direction in terms of me going back to my board and saying, okay, we're looking at, our capital campaign is now looking at the straight renovation of the theater, nothing in the back, we'll deal with the concession, and status quo in terms of heating and cooling. But I hope we raised some questions for you all about, energy efficiency, the long-term relationship, and what we hope as an organization to bring to the town. And I think we're doing a substantial amount of legwork to kind of bring some of these issues to fore. So
we'll wait to hear what your estimates are for the cost of the work in that boiler room, which is the boilers bringing them up, but it's also all those, I believe there's 5 different zones that push air different places.
Water, right.
No, air. I'll take you down sometime.
Well, I guess, Phil, that we can do that. I'm not sure, is it worth us spending, our organization, spending the money to get a cost estimate if the select board really feels we don't have the appetite for even dealing with moving those boilers or dealing with the boilers in any way. And I think that, I don't want to go through the exercise of John costing out something that you're going to say, you know.
From sitting here, what I know about the cost of mechanical work, we could be talking $100,000, or we could be talking $200,000, and there's a big difference. And tell me if I'm wrong.
Well, depending on what you want to do, never mind the fact that you would have to build another floor, that adds to the cost of just moving those things up. I mean, you know.
Take it
that's-
all apart, take it all up, build it all over again. It could even be $250,000 easy.
Well, certainly when we lump into it, the air handlers and the cooling and that sort of thing, we're over that anyways.
We're not.
But that's part of Pentangle's systems.
This floor has all the AC it needs. The unit's up in the attic. I might even share some of that with you if you have it on the weekends.
This is making my insulation sound cheap.
That's right.
Well, so I guess I think you all need to debate amongst
I need
yourselves.
more information.
Yeah, that's what I need, more information.
Well, if you know it's $200,000, what's like, you want us to go spend another $4,000 or $5,000 coming up with a bid?
Just a proposal. Or he could write out all the work orders that would have to happen to make that boiler room. I was
We can
not
talk about it.
expecting to have this conversation tonight myself. All the times we've talked about the project and all that's been in the paper, the boiler room that serves the whole building was not on my radar.
Well, it's only on our radar because of the state's floodplain issues. Okay, well, I think unless you have any more questions, we know what we need to do.
For all you guys that deal with the floodplain rules and regs, is it possible to put a sealed door such as a submarine door on that boiler room entryway and make it compliant, just sitting the way it is?
There's no door now?
There's a wooden door.
Yeah, but it's up above the floodplain.
Yes.
Water can't get in, the door's higher than the floodplain.
So I guess I don't understand why they're forcing the relocation of the boilers.
You know, Phil, the way the system works is the state recommends, the town DRB approves.
Okay.
And it is hard for the DRB to go against the state's recommendation. And the state doesn't like weatherproofing and doors and things, but
Okay.
doesn't like is different from saying that it doesn't comply with FEMA. And I don't know what appetite that Michael Brands and the DRB has to saying, you know what, thank you very much for your comment, but we're gonna go a different route. I don't know,
Okay, good.
but that is an option.
Very good. Well, let's
Yeah.
talk some more. Good, thank you.
That's the way the laws are
I
written.
know down at the sewer plant we have those doors.
Yeah,
And they keep the floods out.
yeah. And the other thing is you could approach John Broker Campbell and just say, we'd like to try a different option. I mean, he's giving you what is their preferred option, and their preferred option is Elevate.
Thank you. That makes it very clear.
Yeah.
Are we good?
All right, well, thank you.
Thank
Bob,
you.
have any questions? He's reading.
Bob, do you have questions?
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
I'm sure the rest of the meeting is going to be very exciting.
You'll be surprised.
I hate it when people left the meeting after their item was up, but see you guys.
Oh, no, we don't hate it at all. It's, you should feel free.
You need to go home. and-
Yeah.
You're free to go.
Yeah. No, we don't take that personally at all.
All right, that's good enough.
All right, because we are going on to dull things like arrows and emissions from the grand list. No offense to the listers, but anyway.
Need to make a correction.
Where is that in our package here?
Just after the reduced copy of the.
Yeah. Yes, I did look at the package. I don't want to make you think that I didn't, and I remember thinking it was not
Hopefully it's not in the
anything too
packet.
complicated.
I
I
apologize.
just have to find it, that's all.
Which have use mine?
I'll use yours.
Use mine. I can share with Butch.
So,
I've seen it.
yeah, it's amazing when you got a
Yeah.
camera watching you how you can't find anything. No, this, I won't read it for everyone, but it does seem that somebody's building site was attributed to Woodstock when it's in Reading. So, I mean, that does seem like a pretty clear thing to us. So, any questions? I don't have anyone to question here. Any comments someone wants to make, or?
I'll make a motion that we approve this amendment to the Lodge Grand list.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of making this amendment to the Lodge Grand list, please say aye.
Okay.
Or I guess it's a correction. Very good. Thank you.
I'm gonna send down the paper to sign.
Okay.
Next is our 1% local options tax.
There's a memo in the packet that explains that $94,500 has been spent or appropriated for the fiscal year July 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2016. The local option tax raised $230,721.72.
And we've approved.
How much was it for?
$230,721.72.
Couldn't round that, huh?
So the last check came in August or early September, the way we don't get it.
So more money is coming in than going out.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, they may have a big ask at some point, but I just thought
Yeah.
to put everything
No,
that's happened in the
no,
last
I-
12 months on one piece of paper.
I found this very interesting. Yeah. We're not usually in that position.
No much.
Now if we could just spend it to improve the town hall.
Right.
Well,
I knew you were
Insulation.
gonna, I knew you were gonna say
Yeah.
that.
But you're merely letting us know.
that's correct.
No,
I'm not
I-
asking for anything. It's
I-
just that if you get asked around town about it,
I definitely appreciate getting that, and it does certainly indicate that we have the resources to continue to
right.
to do these things. All right, thank you. Bridge replacement on Class 4 Long Hill Road.
Okay, so this is, essentially we have a bridge that was built with telephone, utility poles and rusted railroad tracks. And it's had a new wooden deck put on it from time to time, and there's just nothing else to salvage out of the frame. And you're
Where on the
looking
road is this, Phil?
Near Connors.
But you go past Connors and,
If you start at Connors from Long Hill side and come down towards Quinn Road and north.
oh, so it's the one that goes towards Quinn Road?
Yes. Well, there are
It's
two
not-
out there.
Yeah, it's not the one that goes towards Boyers. Because there's a bridge on that road also.
There are two up there. One is in much better shape than the other.
Okay. I
This
wasn't
is-
sure which
This is
one.
the one nearest Connors.
Okay.
And John and I were out there last week, crawled around up and down.
It's gotta be replaced, and if you replace it with railroad rails, it's gonna be just about as bad, so we decided that probably the best way to go was to go with some good girders and build a new tight floor, and also raise the elevation of the bridge side itself on the road part. So the water sits right in it now. And if we can raise it up about a foot, Phil?
Yes.
It'll be draining away from it, so. It's gotta be replaced, and I don't know, if we replace it cheap, we're gonna have to do it again in another few years.
So this plan includes new 12-inch I-beams, a new floor made of pressure-treated lumber, 2x6 stacked on end, the way the middle covered bridge floor is and the way the tassel covered bridge floor. So you just stack them up and bolt them together. It will have a bumper to kind of force a tire back in or snowmobile back in, plus handrails, guardrails, wooden.
Is it wide enough for a vehicle to go over?
Yes,
And you'd expect some light vehicles to go over it?
yes.
They have to
They
get the
go on-
groomer and,
Jeep trails,
Over it, and that's
Jeeps go on
heavy.
it now, snowmobiles, horses, wagons.
the groomer is the heaviest.
The
thing
groomer
that
goes
over,
on.
and that's pretty solid
That's a big piece of
with
machinery.
the groomer behind the,
So you're saying that our
Back there.
crew can do this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any liability to the town by having it designed and built by us rather than by somebody licensed to do that?
I'm sure Ken, our highway superintendent, built bridges for 20 years for Daniels. This is probably at least 3 times stronger than what's been there.
But we're not increasing our liability.
No, I think that I understand your question. And I've wondered that myself. And I think this is sufficiently safe that I'm not real worried about liability. So
And there are towns in Vermont that do their own bridge work.
the highway department rebuilt that thing from the railroad irons up twice that I know about. And then
it's a better built structure than has
Than
been
what's there
built
now.
before,
Yeah.
by quite a ways.
we do also need to bring some gravel up to improve the road to the point that our trucks can get in and do the work. So there'll be some in the four-wheeling community that might take offense at that because it doesn't give them the
The
thrill
thrill.
of bouncing off rocks. But we do need to be able to access it with our own trucks. When we went in to look, we drove in on some private property, but it wouldn't be fair to do that for weeks on end with trucks and gravel and loads and stuff. And we would use the gravel that's at the town garage that is left over from Irene
Right.
that was pulled out of the river that we already own.
Recycle.
And then it won't cost us anything,
You
no.
already own it.
We own it, yeah.
You think we should do it, John?
I'd make a motion, we approve it. I probably shouldn't because I was there, but we looked it over pretty thoroughly, and as I say, it's built a hell of a lot better than it ever was before, and we won't have to fool with it for quite a few years. It probably lasts longer than any of us are here, so,
Oh, it's a good 50-year bridge,
yeah.
no
So,
question about it.
I'll second it.
Yeah, I mean,
the approaches and everything, I think it's gonna be 100% better probably.
I'd like to approach it as maintenance of an existing bridge, and we're just making it better than the existing bridge. But anyway, that being my comment, with made and seconded, any further discussion? And if not, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Doesn't sound it. I guess we will do it.
And it will be open for snowmobile travel, as long as it doesn't start in October.
Yeah, oh, this year, yeah, well, we could always
It's
hope,
closed
huh?
now, it is closed now with
Yeah.
snow pits.
All right, our next agenda item has to do with permits, and it looks like we have we're blessed with 4 driveway access permits.
One of them, the first one, is not Naoki Way, that's off College Hill
Off
Road.
College Hill.
Yeah.
I was
Just
about
so
to
you
ask
know.
you that question.
The first
We all
zone
noticed that, yeah.
permit was to come Naoki Way, but the owner wants the permit, which does not need a town road permit, but the owner wants it off College Hill. Their own, not shared driveway with anybody.
Yeah. Okay.
I think John has seen all these with me. Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
All 4? Or you want to go one by one?
I don't think there's any disagreement with any of the application requests.
They're all, we revisited all of them, and they all seem to be in order, so.
I'll second the motion for all
Well,
four of them.
Well, let's be clear here. Are there actually 4?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
There's only 2 in the package.
There's only 2 in the package, okay.
Sorry.
But there's 4 on the list here.
Yeah. What about the one from, that aren't in the package? They're just,
Okay,
I can
so-
see one as a forestry access, yeah.
That one, and you've got Patricia Clark.
Yeah.
That is,
So I just have.
The Pompey Road's the only one I guess
oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, so one on Pomfret Road is at what we know as Conklin,
okay.
just west of the house.
Mhm.
They want to put in a access road to get to the field and up in the woods for logging. They cannot bring it out their current driveway because you have to go through the house to do it.
They've got it sort of in there now.
They've got it roughed in, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since we've been up there, there's a culvert across there.
Oh, is there?
They put a small culvert across there, which we didn't, it was built up,
Same side of the road as
it was built low enough so that the natural ground, it would drain anyway,
Just
so.
before the house.
But they did put a small culvert across,
Yeah,
so.
sort of, there was actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was kind of a road there.
That was the old woods access before that Albert used to use.
Right.
Yeah, that was-
Is that what they're talking about?
That's where they're going.
Yep. Just for
So-
logging?
Their intent is to do some logging up on that hill that Al used to log there.
Yeah.
Some great stories.
So I think where we're at is we've got 4 applications. We know what they are. John has made a motion that we approve the 4. Do we have Butch has seconded it? Okay. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor of approving these 4 applications, please say aye. Okay, I think we're good. Next, we get to John's favorite topic, overweight truck permits.
The overweight permits, there's 2. I reviewed them and they're both okay, so I make a motion we approve them.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Bob seconds. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good. Before we launch into sewer, I think we should probably cover our additions. If that sounds all right. And I do see. Well, I guess we'll start with the tax sale.
Okay, so Lynn, do you have the list?
There we go.
Yep.
In the packet.
Oh. So there'll be 3 properties that I've proposed
Yeah.
turning over to Bill Dagger to pursue with tax sales. And they're on the top of your sheet.
Yep. And then there are other 8 that have made or are making.
There's a lot that,
Ways.
a few have been cleaned up, a few have made a big dent.
Yeah.
I will say that I'm very happy to work with any property owner with these payment plans, but if I find there's been a few months go by and no payments, then I'm gonna have to turn those over to Dagger also. But the law requires the select board to approve these before they start the full proceedings.
Yes. So we have, basically, you're looking for us to approve proceeding with the top 3 on this list?
3 properties.
Yes. Okay.
So moved.
So moved.
Seconded.
Yeah, seconded.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
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 So now I need to figure out a date when,
I will say for the sake of the camera that we bend over backwards not to go this far.
we don't touch anything that's not over 2 years old.
Yeah.
Looking at something in here the last week of October, maybe Monday, Tuesday, sometime in the early afternoon.
To do what?
To be present, to bid for the town.
Oh.
If nobody else bids.
I can do that again.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay. Since Bob knows how to do that.
Bring your checkbook,
Thank you.
Bob.
Yeah. Can make you feel very important. All right.
It's a little scary.
Yes, I haven't actually done tax sale, but I've done some foreclosure bids, and yeah, I know. Anyway. Um, Then that would mean that you want to talk about the local 20% match.
So a few months ago, when Allison Clarkson was here from representing the Billings Park Commission, we talked to you about doing some work on the trails on public lands within the park.
Yeah.
And the feds have agreed to allow the grant that had gotten kind of messed up with ownership of the property to be used for Billings Park. The select board approved accepting the money from the feds, but has not approved spending the 20% match from the Billings Trust Fund. And so I'm here to ask that you approve spending the local match from the Billings Park Trust Fund.
So it's 20% of what?
It's roughly 100,000, might be 110,000. Because even if they go in and say it's 105, that's an estimate. So I'm gonna say it shouldn't exceed $25,000 of local money.
And that money is where?
In the Billings Park Trust Fund. It's been income that's been accumulated over the years and not spent. The fund has $300,000 in it in round figures. Started at $24,000 in 1953.
And that's money that's approved at town meeting?
No.
No.
I actually checked this, Butch. I checked this with the legal staff, and essentially, when the town accepted the gift with the conditions, that you don't need a town approval to spend it.
You just have to meet the conditions.
It has to be
Towards the Billings Park
park,
and spending income, not principal.
right.
Okay.
Why have we never spent any of it so far?
She spent some. It's not because there were some good years and they didn't have any needs. A few years ago, there's a lot of work done from the top of the Faulkner Landing with that cable and the posts from there to the top.
Mm-hmm.
It's all new.
Yeah,
That was about 30,000 or so.
okay. Yeah, over on the precipice side too.
Yeah, they've done some work there. So, in order to close the loop before work starts, the select board needs to approve spending the money. The trustee of public funds is in charge of managing the money and making it grow where it's put, but they don't have authority to spend. Spending authority is with the select board. And so I'm here to, on behalf of the park commission, to ask the select board for permission to spend that part of the fund.
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded, everyone understand?
Yes.
All right.
I do now.
Those in,
I didn't know.
I know
Now I
it's-
do. Oh, yeah.
those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, sounds like it's unanimous to me. Good, then I think we're
I think a couple more there.
fully authorized to proceed.
Give you an update on our ambulance.
Yep.
Paramedic, yep.
Yep, you did. You asked for paramedic and then you asked for line painting. Okay.
So Grady fortunately agreed to serve on that committee, along with Paula Eckler, Chief Green, myself, and Hartford Fire Chief Scott.
Okay.
Cooney.
Cody, thank you. We advertised far and wide. We had 6 applicants. We interviewed 3 in person, 1 on the telephone. We invited our top 2 candidates in to spend a day in our station with our people. We did background checks, and we're ready to make an offer to a person. I don't want to release the name because I haven't told her yet.
Okay.
But after, and I really want to give out a shout out to Fire Chief Blish and his people who did the background investigations. They were very thorough and very helpful.
Good.
Well, I think we should leave it up to the committee to present the new person. That's what they were charged to do.
Yes, we'll bring her in and introduce you to her to you next month.
Okay.
But I just wanted to, that's where it is. John asked me where we were at this morning, and I thought Well, John's asking where we are, maybe other
Decision
people would like to
finally.
know as well.
Well, yeah, the last I had heard, you had a candidate that backed out, so I didn't know where we were.
We
Yeah,
had a candidate decided not to come, we had a candidate take another job, we had a candidate who was a candidate but decided he couldn't afford to move to Woodstock,
Shocking.
yeah,
so
so.
it's what,
Well, then we appreciate the update, and we also appreciate that you're being positive.
oh, I
Yeah,
think it's,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
we've got a real solid
Well, right, get it,
person
you know too.
that'll do a good job for our
Excellent.
service and be a good
Change
bridge
your first go
between
around with this, is it,
the
Betty?
fire side and the ambulance side.
Great, great, excellent.
So for line paint,
Yes, and we have a handout on
Paint
that.
my road? I'm gonna paint my road.
well, here, I'd like to just
Line
pass this
Line
down, I'd like to
Line.
paint that.
There's a lot of,
Pomfret Road gets a lot of
Lot of
bicyclists
bike
and a lot of walkers, so I'd like to put that in the pavement to warn motorists to expect bikers. That means shared lane.
yeah,
And in addition to a shared lane, I think that fog lines would be very helpful to encourage people to stay on the edges, give motorists some guide to
Yep.
the
Yep,
fog
yep,
line,
yep, definitely.
From where to where?
from Route 12 to the
16 Market
line,
Road all the way to,
all the way to the line of
bike,
Pomfret.
Benny?
I don't,
it's hanging
not
upside
proposing
down
to go
in the
into
garage.
Pomfret. but Hopefully Pomfret will get some community requests, I think it's a good idea.
Because a lot of the bike traffic is at 6 in the morning in the fog. And so there's
It's
a-
crazy, that is a very foggy part of
Yep.
town. And on Cox District Road, I was asked for some center lines, which we have had when we did the new pavement, we put in both center lines and fog lines. So I think we should keep them up on the busier roads, center lines and fog lines.
They help. They help the driver as well as
They do.
everyone else, because, you know,
What's the reason that they took the rumble strips out but haven't painted the center lines? Do you know any information about that?
Between here and Hartford,
Well, Woodstock, but where they took out all the rumble strips, but they haven't painted any center lines yet.
I will look into that, thank you. They better get hopping because they're running out of paint.
Yeah, you know? I mean,
Yeah, because they painted Route 12.
The painting sections are real full now, I see, but here, just here and
yeah,
there.
they're pretty
They
fast.
didn't do the
Well,
bridges though.
yeah. Well, there's a little more, yeah.
Thanks, Butch, I'll look into that.
So would you like a vote on
Sure.
painting and striping? Will anyone make this motion that we,
I'll make the motion.
Grady made the motion, and that
Paint
includes,
my
I'll second it.
and it's seconded, that's some striping on Cox District and then on Pomfret Road, some bicycle designation.
Bicycle.
All right. Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I believe the ayes have it.
Get out there quick.
Anything else, Phil, before we move on to
Well, I guess
sewer?
item C on the sewer commissioners, the Happy Valley Road Culvert Project, that's not sewer works.
Yeah,
That's more
Okay.
town road work.
then let's talk about that now.
I'll
Okay,
hand something out to you.
we have, it's a project that involves replacing 3 plastic culverts with 3 steel culverts in the tight little section of the Happy Valley Road.
Don't we usually do it the other way?
We
Replace-
do,
Yeah.
but these are squashed.
Okay.
Theirs are not standing up.
In other words, they need to be stronger. Okay.
So we went and got a Better Back Roads grant. The Better Back Roads grant that did the road inventory recommended steel culverts.
Okay.
Then we got an $8,000 grant from them for these 3 culverts. And it went out to bid, and our low bid is from Schultz, it's under $7,000.
Once again, the range of bids is astounding, but
Yeah.
again, I guess it depends how hungry they are. I mean, like 3.5 fold?
Yes.
Anyway,
The 2 were real close.
What? Yes, there's an obvious cluster there. What like diameter are these, or?
18 inch. One is 15.2 or 18.
Okay, standard size, all right.
Yeah.
Just gets heavy use, huh?
It gets, I think it may have, these were pretty close to the surface.
Yeah,
of the
okay.
road. The proposal, the plans call for it to go down 4 feet. I think if we run into ledge, I'm not gonna go 4 feet. I don't wanna pay for all that ledge
Quite a difference
removal.
in the
Yeah.
ledge. Quite a bit of
I
difference
agree.
in the ledge there, though.
Yeah.
One is 125, but doesn't talk about hauling it away. And Schultz is
Break up and all that.
195 broke up
Hammer.
and hauled away.
Just
So,
wanna hammer it.
Gonna hammer that.
so it didn't specify removal, just
Right.
said specify breaking it up.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can't make any, so
Okay.
I see Schultz as the parent.
I'll make
bidder.
it. I'll make a motion to accept Schultz's bid.
All right,
I'll
Second.
seconded.
Whatever.
Any further discussion? This is the low bid. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I think that is
And I
unanimous.
don't really anticipate much ledge, because if we get into it, like I said, I think we're just gonna get what elevations we can, get our good pitch, set the things and go.
Right.
Okay, now I think we can move on to Board of Sewer Commissioners.
Thank you.
And we have here sewer line inspection equipment.
What this is using computer technology and video camera technology to be able to get into the sewer pipes and see what we've got. And then to put a wand above ground and tell you where your pipe is. Because it's impossible to tell where you are without
Right.
being able to locate it. It's just, we need it in order to tell customers where they can put a line and where they can't. Recently, they spent a month trying to help a resident up in Butch's neighborhood locate where she can build a driveway and a garage. Didn't want it over a line. This would have made it a one morning job instead of a 4 or 5 trips up their job. It's expensive. It's not just for locating private lines, it's we've got 13 miles of sewer lines.
That's an interesting statistic.
It is. 400 feet of cable, which gets you more than, we need to go manhole to manhole,
Yep.
and it's more than that. So it would be able to, once you put your cable in your pipe through this machine, you can camera it plus identify above ground where exactly it is.
Take pictures. How much was it?
Well, it's expensive.
Yeah.
There's 2 pieces. The combined equipment, the hose reel, the camera, that's approximately 10,000, and the above ground sonar finder is another 2,000.
So how much is that divided by
12.
13 miles?
12 complete.
$1,000 a mile,
Aye. 12 complete.
approximately.
About.
And we've priced it out, we've shopped it around, and the company that makes it has, if they sold it to us direct, would be $1,000 more than going through E.J. Prescott Pipes because of the sales relationships. And there's no other manufacturer that has that kind of
Well,
heavy-duty product.
but this would be dedicated monies that have been raised
Yes,
through
and
sewer
you're-
revenues, so
and
it's
you're-
not taxpayer dollars.
That is correct.
Yeah, and we're not borrowing, it's there.
We're not borrowing.
Right,
Money the sewer's got.
yeah,
That's
Sewer
correct.
department.
Yes.
yeah.
Is it a
So-
service, though, that we could contract out on an as-needed basis?
We don't like to do that. The same reason highway doesn't like to fix people's driveways, because you're so tied up with your own work. They will, I promise you, if any of our local contractors went to the boys and said, would you help us do this or that? And if it was in our system, yes, they would go help. But no, as far as going,
Out to
No.
Bob's house.
well, not so much.
No sewer there.
A lot,
Direct drive to the river.
we may end up using it in ways that I don't foresee.
Mhm.
There's lots of times people want to know where their septic leach field is. They got no clue. There were no drawings when the house was built, and as late as the 1980s, there were people with no drawings.
Mhm.
Heck, I've got a sewer line that between my house and the road right of way has an issue.
So I'm sure that we will always help people with
It's
this,
clay,
whether they're on
clay
the
tile
sewer or
that's
not.
got an issue, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we will, but I'm not gonna say I don't wanna hire out with a contractor in another town or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
make
we
a-
would help our residents that need help locating underground things with this.
I make a motion then that we approve the expenditure for the sewer line inspection equipment.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? If not, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, no, I think that's money well spent. Sounds like you've done the homework. And then we have the half-ton truck, which is dedicated to sewer.
Yes. So we went out to bid. Ted Green Ford was the only company that put in a bid. They've been winning them for the last half a dozen years, and I guess the other guys don't want to compete against them. I don't know, it's whatever. So the 2017 net trade, all price concessions, and we get a fleet discount with Ford Motor Company. It's $20,799. And John, out of the goodness of his heart, wants to add power locks and power windows, which would be another $1,000.
His arm isn't long enough to reach across the.
This isn't mine. But I do. So when John rode with me last week, he says, "Man, wouldn't it be nice you had power windows?" I said, "Yeah, but I don't."
I think it's a good thing, and I think the trade-in on the pickup would be more if it had power windows, because most everybody does have power windows and whatnot.
I know.
So why is the 2016 more than the
I
2017?
cannot, they would have to go to another dealer. Now, the only reason I asked for a 2016 price that they found, they stopped making the green. Woodstock trucks are green. This happened to us once before, we went with kind of a grayish color. So they stopped making green. So if you want green, you gotta go with a 2016 and pay a $2,000 premium.
So what color will it be?
Probably a gray,
Yeah.
similar to what is now.
Yours is black,
Dark green.
dark green. They don't make that anymore.
No, they stopped. They've done this once before.
I'll be there. Yes, they do.
So I don't see any reason to stick with the green for $2,000 on an older, and a year older.
As long as it wasn't white or something, but no, anyway, no, gray is fine.
Hate the damn thing green.
We all have, the town highway department has a couple of gray ones.
Yeah.
So, it's not,
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
Gray doesn't
a
bother me.
thing.
No, so we bid it out, and that's what we got.
Then we could put a W with a dot or a star over it.
Is that a motion?
No, I won't make that motion. Okay. Are we ready to get a motion on this then, speaking of motions?
I'll make a motion that we accept the 217 pickup.
Okay,
I'll second.
sounds like a deal. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No one opposed? I think we will be buying another truck. And that's, did we include the power windows, or is that presumed that that's what we did?
I didn't hear any objections.
Yeah,
You
okay,
You just told
yeah.
me to go buy the 2017.
Yeah,
so
yep,
I-
that sounds good.
Whatever
I'm good.
John wants.
Whatever, John-
Whatever John wants.
does John have
How
power
many
windows
he
on
has?
his?
He doesn't have any windows in his trucks.
I don't think it's just for his convenience. I think we'll get more on the trade-in when, if we trade the truck in, if it does that.
It's true.
So are we actually done?
We're done.
Wow, okay. Well, I had predicted we would get done by 7:30, so I guess I was right this time. We do have minutes. August 16.
Yes.
Yes.
I have one little,
Uh-oh. John
Yeah.
has something.
you filled up just a little bit here. Let me try it. Well, it's on the third page, I believe. Page 4. Fourth page, top. right up the top, the second paragraph. Should be a plural on those culverts there instead of just one. Boy, what an error. Otherwise, I couldn't find anything.
Or it says
Yeah.
upgrade to a culvert,
Right.
yeah, okay.
Two culverts, plural.
Okay,
There you go.
That's tough.
Really? Wow.
as I said, Lynn has to leave something for John to find.
Yeah, I'll approve the minutes with that correction. Have you corrected those?
I will.
I will approve the minutes.
So,
I will.
I'll second it.
motion's made and seconded. Those in favor of approving the minutes with one minor correction?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Now I guess we can adjourn subject to signing expense warrants, which I assume we have
The
with you.
financial report.
Something else to-
Oh,
What's the other
Financial
business?
report.
okay.
Anna didn't have a chance to get that together.
Oh, okay.
We'll have that for you.
Good.
Okay.
That'll be a regular part of each.
Minutes to
I
sign.
got one thing.
And
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Over on
Signing
the
of-
crossroads, Simon's
Okay.
Road,
I got that one.
on the Route 12 end. After you go around that corner, there's a series of holes there that's kind of bad. All that they can take, if they put George out there with a small load of hardback and have him scrape it, it'll fix it right up. It's no very big deal, but I've been across it a couple of times and it's
Sure, we'll get right on that. Thank you. It must be bad if
Decide
you're
that.
mentioning it.
Okay,
Initials are okay?
Grady, why don't you make your motion now?
To adjourn the meeting after signing the expense warrants.
Okay?
Did we agree
Second.
that, okay. I approve.
Okay. We're adjourned. Now you can.
Is it okay to use?